back to you, Charles, and the issue of transitioning.
Yes, thanks, Mike. Yes, specifically, if one believes it to be possible, transitioning gender. And this is the news that NHS England published yesterday, saying that they will no longer be prescribing what are called puberty-suppressing hormones, PSH. Puberty-suppressing hormones are not available as a routine commissioning treatment option for the treatment of children and young people who have gender incongruence or gender dysphoria. Now, where has this come from and what do we think about it? The NHS, in their statement, say what we have decided. They say NHS England has carefully considered the evidence review conducted by the National Institute for Clinical Excellence and has identified and reviewed any further published evidence available to date. We have concluded that there is not enough evidence to support the safety or clinical effectiveness of PSH to make the treatment routinely available at this time. Now, there are a number of things that fall out of that. The first, I've highlighted the date 2020. Why has it taken 4 years for the evidence review to be examined and considered in this way? Further, if there is deemed to be insufficient evidence now, why was it considered that there was enough evidence at that time? And who made these decisions? Who is it that can be held accountable for these things having happened? How many people have been affected by this? And indeed, who has been allowed to conduct these sorts of treatments? So in the background to the document, the NHS effectively tries to justify its position by saying diagnostic approaches have been described with reference to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders, version 5, published in 2013, Gender Dysphoria, and the International Statistical Classification of Diseases and Related Health Problems, version 11, effective 2022, Gender Incongruence. So the reason I show that is that we are repeatedly told that any issues surrounding gender are not a mental disorder, but they are in fact some sort of physical manifestation. But quite clearly stated there, this is a mental disorder, and indeed, whether or not you believe it's fueled by influences on the children or it comes from within and is being, in effect, the flames are being fanned by these professionals. Either way, this is, in effect, a shocking admission that they proceeded to do this for a number of years with completely insufficient evidence that in any way what they were doing was the right thing. We'll go on to look at the particular drug of choice for the NHS, which is Triptorelin, and some of the side effects. Now, the side effects, as you might imagine, are far too long to read out or list. But I thought concerning, since we just looked at the mental side of it, we'd look at the psychiatric effects. And listed here, bearing in mind this is prescribed to children, very common, decreased libido, sleep disorders or mood changes, and common psychiatric disorders, or side effects, insomnia, emotional lability, loss of libido, depression, depressed mood, or irritability. Now, does that sound in any way like the sort of drug that should be given to children who are already in a state of mental turmoil? I think not. But of course, the world being as it is, even though the NHS is saying that it can't prescribe this anymore, if you want to buy it, a very quick search on the internet produced Pure Peptides UK, where you can buy a bottle of Triptorelin for £10 a throw. So again, no problem getting it. As I said at the beginning, I mean, perhaps we consider that the wind is changing direction. So I just want to point towards two private members' bills in Parliament at the moment. The first in the House of Lords, sponsored by Baroness Burt, the Conversion Therapy Prohibition Bill. And within that, she's suggesting that a person commits an offence if they practice or offer to practice conversion therapy, which is defined as the practice aimed at a person or group of people which demonstrates an assumption that any sexual orientation or gender identity is inherently preferable to another, and which has the intended purpose of attempting to change the person's sexual orientation or gender identity, or suppress a person's expression of sexual orientation or gender identity. Now, somewhat regrettably, at the same time, there is a bill in the House of Commons from the Labour MP Lloyd Russell Moyle, which in effect has similar provisions. But what I do want to highlight from his bill is the rather ambiguous text where he suggests that, or rather the bill suggests, that no offence is committed where a person expresses a religious or other belief. Now, it's easy to see how that could be manipulated. And further, at the bottom there, an offence is not committed where a health practitioner takes an action in the course of providing a health service, provided that the health practitioner complies with regulatory and professional standards and considers in their reasonable professional judgment that it is appropriate to take that action. So this is where we return to the prescriptions of these drugs, and we think that those professionals believed that it was reasonable to be prescribing those things in the first place. So even if these bills do go through, it's very easy to see already how they could be manipulated for effectively to the detriment of the mental health and physical well-being of children.
Thank you, Charles. Okay, now let's move on now to